What is good, YouTube? Good morning. What's good? Padilla. West Coast. Much respect, my brother. Got West Coast, LA in the house early. Really early for the West Coast, right? What is it, like 6 a.m. over there? Wanted to hit on something real quick. No doubt, my brother, no doubt. You're welcome. Wanted to hit on something real quick. The internet is a very funny thing, right? Very interesting. Better way of putting it. What's good, Chris? I try to peek at the comments, but I apologize. I don't mean to ignore anyone. I'm just keeping my eyes on the road. Internet is a very, very interesting thing, isn't it? Let's talk about it. It connects us. It connects all kind of folks, different backgrounds, right? From different areas, different parts of the country, even different parts of the world, right? Shout out to all my fans, all my viewers overseas. Shout out to all my fans in the UK. What's good? And through that connection, it is how most of you, right, find an interest. Something interests you watching right now about me, about this bald-headed, shaved, right, Cuban guy, right, in upstate New York, in the cold, right near Canada, all the way up. But there's something, and it's different for each and every one of you, right? There's something that appeals, that interest, that piques each and every one of your curiosities, right? For some reason, we appreciate the fact that each and every one of you, like I always say, takes the time out of your day to tune in, to log in, to check me out, to see, you know, what Davy V is talking about today, right? And I appreciate that. Where am I going with this? Well, I assure you it's not just the morning rant. We'll save that for another day. Where I'm going with it is as follows. There's only so much that each and every one of you can see through this channel, right? My goal with this channel always has been and always will continue to be to give you a small window. Why do I say small? Because it can only be but so big without you, each and every one of you, being here in Rochester, New York, in Monroe County, New York. Let me break it down a better way. Through this channel, my goal has been and will always continue to be to give you a little look into my world up here in Rochester, New York, and the greater Monroe County, New York area, the county in which Rochester is in. And each and every one of you will take something different away from that, right? Some of you, for example, may be inspired to exercise your constitution protected First Amendment right to record, for example, right? Others may be inspired or motivated to become passionate about something, even something that's not related to civil rights, to police accountability, right? I mean, somebody potentially could look at me and say, man, this guy, Davy V, is so passionate about his beliefs, right, that I'm going to become that passionate about wood shop, wood making, whatever, a hobby, fishing, whatever your thing may be. Something about me or this channel, and seeing my motivation and my passion about something that I believe in so deeply, right? Like the First Amendment right to record, like civil rights, like police accountability, right? May motivate each and every one of you to take a little bit of that into your own world and use that, right? It doesn't even have to be related to what I believe in or what I do. So back to that window, there is only so much that I am able to show you about my world up here in Rochester, New York, about the corruption, about the good old boys club, about the thin blue line, about the code of silence, about the blue wall, the impenetrable blue wall, we'll call it, about the double standards, about the hypocrisy that is so prevalent in my hometown of Rochester, New York. To see it better, to experience it better, and perhaps most importantly, to understand it better, you would have to be living here and see this every single day. The corruption, the double standards, and the hypocrisy in Rochester, New York. The blatant hypocrisy. Short of living here, again, it's a window. It's a little window into my world. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Today's peek in that window for you guys and girls will be about the disturbing disparity in the way that local law enforcement here in Rochester, New York, and in the greater Monroe County, New York area responds to cases such as missing youth, missing young adults, especially missing white young adults and youths, and missing Black and Latino young adults and youths. A white female, 19 years old, ran away from home. What's good? New York Jets 15. Geneva in the house. Thank you for tuning in. A young 19-year-old white female ran away from home, believe sometime yesterday, in Honeoye Falls, New York. For those of you not familiar with this upstate New York, Rochester, New York, Monroe County, New York area, Honeoye Falls, New York is about 15-20 minutes from Rochester, New York. Just a short drive away. Young white female runs away from home. Again, I want to emphasize that. Runs away from home. And within hours, not even that long, the response to a runaway 19-year-old young woman has blatant disparity when it comes to race written all over it. Let me explain something to you. Some of you who have been riding with me for a while may remember the case of the young African-American 14-year-old Rochester, New York City School District student who was autistic. Trevion Rowe. If you're new to the channel, please Google, you could Google. Please Google, or please in the search bar of YouTube right here, or right up there, wherever the search bar is, right? I'm assuming it's going to be right up here on your screen, correct? Search Davy V. Trevion Rowe. Trevyan. Last name Rowe. Rowe. Thank you, New York Jets. They don't even use the chopper for the search. They had so many excuses. Thank you. And I'm going right there. Woo! That's exactly where I'm going. Thank you. New York Jets 15. Big shout out. Geneva, New York in the house. Remembers. So we have a young missing 14-year-old autistic child. Black child. Minority child. Who never made it into the school. Who was on the bus. Was picked up at a bus stop. The bus arrived at the school. Right? However, the Rochester, New York City School District dropped the ball and failed this young autistic child in every step of the way. Starting from no kind of supervision when students were getting off the bus, this young man somehow, some way managed to walk away from the school instead of entering the school. Walked away. But perhaps one of the most disturbing things that happened with this young man is that local law enforcement, specifically the Rochester, New York Police Department, failed this young man. And not only the Rochester, New York Police Department, again, this goes into that little window that I'm explaining to all of you, that you can't really see it, you can't really feel it unless you're living here. But a lot of you don't live here, so I try my best to show you a glimpse into the corruption, the hypocrisy, and the double standards here in Rochester, New York, and Monroe County, New York. And I wrote about it on my blog. It's on YouTube. Google Davy V. Trevion Rowe. Everyone, and I mean everyone, and I'm not exaggerating one bit, everyone failed this young man. From the school district, who later went back and tried to, good morning, and who later went back and tried to falsify, not tried, actually falsified records. Because some of the teachers were so lazy that they marked him present in class when he never went into the school. He never set foot into the school that morning. He walked away. And sadly, where he walked away, less than a mile, maybe 2 miles, not even, he walked to a bridge, the Susan B. Anthony Frederick Douglass Bridge, which you've seen, a lot of you have seen me talk about. And this is perhaps the most disturbing part. Motorists on their way to work, right, on the bridge, driving by the bridge, saw a young man fitting Trevion Rowe's description on the edge of the bridge, on the other side of the railing, of the protective guardrail, whatever, on the side, and called 911. Multiple callers called 911 to report a young man dangerously close to the edge of the bridge. What does the city of Rochester, New York, Monroe County, New York 911 Communications Center dispatcher do when she gets the call? They send out a New York State police trooper who patrol the expressways, the interstates here in Rochester, New York. And by the way, this is Interstate 490, where the bridge is located. It is part of the 490 route, interstate. And the cop doesn't see anything when he drives by, nonchalantly, reports back, nothing here, that's it. The dispatcher never dispatched fire and rescue, which is policy, which even Rochester, New York Mayor Lovely Warren, who you know I blast all the time and I go hard and I call out for being a hypocrite, even she couldn't spin or hide behind the fact that it is policy. And she denounced the conduct of the 911 operator, of the city of Rochester, New York 911 operator, who failed to dispatch fire and rescue. Now, here's the sad thing. 3-4 days later, after a lot of community members searching for Trevion Rowe, his body was found almost directly underneath the bridge where motorists saw him standing less than an hour after he went missing from school, after he never walked into school. Better said, after the his school bus dropped him off in front of the school and he was able to walk away. A young autistic child in need of supervision was failed by the system here in Rochester, New York. Not only by the school district, but then by the emergency response system here in Rochester, New York, specifically the city of Rochester, New York 911 Communication Center. Days later, Trevion's body was pulled from the river, from the icy water, the Genesee River, directly below the location where he was last seen standing on that bridge. But it was bigger than that. Rochester, New York Police, along with New York State Police, along with the Monroe County, New York Sheriff's Office, they failed. They took their sweet time to deploy a helicopter. Everyone failed this young black autistic child. Everyone at every level. And again, even Rochester, New York Mayor Lovely Warren called it how it is. She did that. I have to say that. It's not really to give her credit. You know I'm very blunt and honest with everyone, right? She couldn't. It was so disturbing, and the fuck up was so great on every level of everyone that failed this young autistic child in need of supervision. It was so bad that Rochester, New York Mayor Lovely Warren couldn't do her usual spin and damage control. She called it out for what it was. She said it verbatim. The system failed Trevion Rowe. Look it up. Look up the story in Rochester, New York, and look up my videos. Look up how I called Deputy Rochester, New York Police Chief LaRon Singletary out at a press conference. Look at that video. Search for it right here. The response when it comes to a missing minority, child, youth, young adult, a child of color, a person of color, including adults, but I'm talking more about youth and young adults. It's disgusting. Not just here in Rochester, throughout the country. Look up white woman syndrome. White woman syndrome. It's a thing. It's a thing. It is basically how the media refers to and portrays missing white women. Because missing white women, the blonder the hair and the bluer or the greener the eyes, the more the ratings, the more the news ratings. And the more the ratings, the more the cash. News ratings equals cash. And there's no more bigger news story that gets more news ratings, that gets more cash from advertisers than a missing white woman. Look up missing white female. Look up white woman syndrome. Look it up. Google that and read about that. And that transcends into law enforcement, because never forget this. If you learn one thing only in this channel, on this channel, apart from exercising your First Amendment right to record, it should be that you never forget that law enforcement and media work hand in hand. They depend on each other and they work together. Look up again, white woman syndrome. And then, like I was saying, it transcends into the way that law enforcement responds and reacts to missing minorities. To all the countless cases of minority, mostly black and Latino children who have gone missing throughout this country and are still missing and become nothing more than a case and an index and a file number filed away in some gray or off-white metal filing cabinet. Look it up. White woman syndrome. Back to the missing 19-year-old female out of Honeypot Falls, New York. There is a cavalry right now as we speak, led by the Monroe County, New York Sheriff's Office. They have drones in the air. They have an army of law enforcement officers combing the area. They have a boat on Honeypot Lake, I'm sorry. They even have fucking horses. That's right. Deputies, Monroe County, New York Sheriff deputies are on horseback. They are not holding back one bit on the search effort for this young woman. And let me make something clear right now, right here. I hope that she is found safe. In no way, shape, or form is this anything against this young woman who went missing. This is about the hypocrisy and the double standard, the disturbing, disgusting, blatant double standard in the way that missing white youths and young adults are treated compared to missing minority children and young adults. This is about the effort or the lack thereof on behalf of law enforcement when it comes to a missing white youth or young adult as opposed compared to a missing black or Latino youth or young adult. I assure you the response is day and night. And that should disturb everyone. That should concern everyone. And Rochester, New York mainstream media, of course, they're on this story for ratings. I saw a post by one of the local news stations here that disgusted me so much. It said that when the young woman left the house, she had no shoes or a coat on. And they made sure that was like the headline that they wanted to put out there on Twitter. No shoes, no coat. Let me tell you who else has no shoes and no coats here in Rochester, New York, and throughout the country. Homeless veterans, have no shoes and no coats, and sleep under bridges, while the majority of the population goes about their daily grind and rat race life, distracted and consumed by bullshit, and drive right by the veterans who sleep under bridges in the cold weather. Again, it is in no way, shape, or form meant to disrespect this young woman who went missing, who ran away. And that needs to be said. She ran away from home. But my point with this video and speaking out about this, because no one else does, so I will, is that it is disturbing and should be disturbing to each and every one of you and to everyone. The way that the disparity between young minorities when they go missing and young Caucasian youth and young adults when they go missing, the way that law enforcement responds to each one, it is disturbing. It is very, very disturbing. And it's tied in to the term that I've said several times, and I'll say it again: white woman syndrome. Look it up. It disgusts to see all resources on deck when it is a missing white child or young adult. But yet the system failed young Trevion Rowe, a black autistic child. The system failed him in every single way, at every single step, on every single level. Then someone, I forget, it was 98PXY, Rochester, New York radio station 98PXY, had the nerve to tweet me on Twitter after I sent out a tweet about the disparity and the way that law enforcement reacts to missing whites compared to missing minorities. 98PXY, 98WPXY here in Rochester, New York, a radio station, had the nerve to tweet me that the response to Trevion Rowe was swift and diligent. And I basically tweeted him back, putting him on blast, saying, really? Swift and diligent? Those are the words that you use, 98PXY. Those are the words that you use? Swift and diligent? Really? To describe a failure on every level for a young missing black autistic child? Really? Like I told them on Twitter, and I'll tell them now, 98PXY and everyone else in the mainstream media, you need to drive down to the Rochester, New York Fire Department fire station on Allen Street and Broad Streets, who are located less than a mile from the bridge, from the Frederick Douglass Susan B. Anthony Bridge. Where Trevion was on, and where he wound up in the water right below that bridge after Rochester, New York, City of Rochester, New York 911 communications dispatcher refused and failed to dispatch fire and rescue as mandated by policy whenever you see someone on a bridge in peril. Drive down to the fire station and ask the firefighters who, after Trevion's body was recovered from the river, said that the hardest thing for them is to know that they had a great chance to save him, to save this young man. If only they would have been dispatched, which again, they were not. Go ask those firefighters if they think that the response to this missing young black autistic child was swift and diligent. Go ask him that. Peace.